Okay, here we go. So yeah, I guess quick intro on my end. My name is Chumo Koro. Currently, I work as a senior software engineer at Bloomberg, and yeah, excited to speak with you today.
Awesome. Thank you so much for even offering this type of service. So, I'm a newer software developer. I started learning the beginning of last year, I think in January,
Hmm.
and I've learned some front end, and I just kind of jumped into the back end not too long ago. But I'm in that spot now where I feel like I know a good bit to where I can start my job search. And I've had a few interviews, but I never get past that first round.
Mm,
Um, yeah, so um, yeah, that's just kind of where I am right now. I've transitioned from I was in healthcare for a little bit, and then I
okay,
was in recruiting for a little bit. So this is new to me.
okay. So I guess
Yeah.
real quick, what can I help you with today? Just so I make
Um,
sure I address that part, and then
so I brought my resume.
okay,
Um, I don't think I sent you a copy, but I
yeah,
brought that, or I have that up. So I kind of like for you to take a look at it, see if there's anything that you recommend that I should change on there,
okay.
um, or any bits and pieces that you may have.
I got you. So for sure, definitely the calendar invite that you had, you can send your resume there just so I can
Mhm.
open it up on my computer. But
Oh,
then
okay.
so yeah, I would say do that. But then also it sounds like you were already getting interviews. So you might not necessarily have a resume problem, may need, just more work in terms of interview prep and all that stuff. If you can get it's because it sounds like you're getting interviews, right?
Yeah, I've gotten, let's see, I think I've had four so far, and I haven't been applying heavily.
Okay.
So I probably could have more, but it's kind of like I'm in between learning more and trying to do the job search. So I'm not putting a lot of time into the job search right now.
Right.
But I guess you're right then. If I have gotten an interview, maybe it is just maybe I need to interview prep more.
Right. But I mean, we can focus on the we can do the resume review
Okay.
for today and kind of just go over it and if I think there's some room for improvement or whatever, we can focus on that. But then if we have time, we can kind of talk more about your interviews and how they went and potentially we could schedule like a mock technical interview in the future if that's okay with you.
Okay, for sure. Now you mentioned sending my resume to the email, the Calendly email that was sent out to
Hmm.
me. Okay, all
Yeah,
right.
because my email should be cc'd on that.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
gotcha. I'm going to do that now. Okay, I see it here. Give me just a second, Chuma. Am I pronouncing it right?
You pronounced it perfectly.
Okay,
You kind of
awesome.
scared me a little bit. You said my name. I was like, how she know my name? But then it's like, I told you my name. Yeah.
Hey, I always want to get people's name right. People get my name wrong all the time, but I got to the point
Right.
now where
I'd
I
even
just let
try
people
it.
call me Daz. So
Is it Daz Janae?
it's Dejanay.
Oh, Dejanay. Okay.
Mhm.
Dejanay.
Yeah.
Nice.
All right.
Okay. Can you see my screen?
Uh-huh. I can see it.
Nice. Okay. So I never saw this before. So let's just go through it.
Okay.
So okay, so first thing I noticed, it's more than one page. That's usually red flag. I feel like a lot of recruiters complain about that.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Gotcha.
it's and I know like they say like the more like if you're like 10-15 years of experience, they some people argue that that's okay to have multiple pages, but I feel like you're like probably around my age or younger, and so I'm thinking you maybe don't have so much experience that you couldn't fit it on one page. So
Gotcha.
I would recommend that, trying to get it down to one page for sure.
Okay.
um and then here, let's just zoom in real quick. uh So Dejanay, software developer, number, email, portfolio. Okay, that's cool. I might even because this is a link, right? So you would
Yes.
have to have the the actual document file on your computer to click this link. But let's say someone printed it out, they wouldn't be able to find your portfolio, since
Right.
it's a, you have to click into it. So on mine, I think I have it written out like linkedin.com/ blah, 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 or github.com/ blah, blah, blah.
Mhm.
Kind of similar to how you have like your email is written out as your email, but it's also a link as well to your email. So
Mhm.
that's the first thing.
Okay.
Second thing, I'm looking at, I don't see your education. Where is it?
It's at
Um,
the bottom. I put it at the
it's at the
bottom.
bottom. So that's, I and this is, and maybe it's arguable. Some people say it's not that big of a deal. I think it is. I think
Mhm.
that's probably the first thing most people are looking at,
Okay.
just to even get you in the door.
I have
Is
a
your
question about.
education, like, do you have a bachelor's degree or not? Yeah, you have a question?
Yeah, so kind of based off what you were saying. So I put education at the bottom because I have a degree, but it's not in computer science. It's in interdisciplinary studies. So I was like, that's not going to be important to them because they're like, she's just an interdisciplinary studies student or graduate. So
Yeah.
does that make it any different, do you think? Or
I don't think it does.
okay.
I think just the fact that you have a bachelor's degree is has value. And I think a lot of recruiters will see it like that. And also recruiting, like, hiring managers will still see it like that. Like, I
Mhm.
say, think about it. Let's say you're a hiring manager and you have one candidate who, technically sound, blah, blah, blah. And, they maybe went to a boot camp in
Mhm.
addition to, and yeah, they just went to a boot camp, versus you have the same person, but they also have a bachelor's degree on top of that. More likely than not, that person with the bachelor's degree is going to get that job. So
Gotcha.
I
That
think
makes
I would say put all your qualifications, and having a degree is a qualification. Like, if you look at most roles, they'll
sense.
they might not they might say, oh, bachelor's degree in computer science, this and that, but they always mention bachelor's degree, more often than not. So if you have it, I wouldn't hide it.
Oh,
Um, yeah.
gotcha.
And then even in interdisciplinary studies, even with this, the way you have your education laid out, um, it doesn't really tell, like, I don't even know what interdisciplinary studies is, but
Mhm.
I would even recommend saying, like, maybe add some relevant courses. Maybe you took a course that had something to do with some computer or Excel or something
Mhm.
like that. I might include that and just add like a line saying relevant courses with some courses that you may have, and it's, of course, obviously your major was not computer science, but if you took anything related to computers, tech, software, anything like that, I
Mhm.
would try to, put it down. And usually they make you do something related, or even math, because you have
Mhm.
to do some math in your bachelor's program. If you
Right.
took algebra, trig, something like that, I'd even include that, because even, computer science is good, but also math looks really good too, because it lets them know, oh, okay, you can understand math, you might be able to understand computer science concepts as well.
Okay.
Um,
Gotcha.
what else would I say? Did you have a high GPA?
It's more like a 3.3. So not
3.3.
really
Okay.
high in regards to others. No.
I usually say if it's above a 3.5, definitely put it. 3.3, you might
That's
you might be
average.
able to put it and still say that again.
Very average.
I mean, I think that's something, it's a little bit more wiggle room. I say if if it's below like a 3.0, definitely don't put it.
Mhm.
3.0 to 3.5, it depends. And then also you don't really have information about like when did you graduate? Like you should have that on your resume, I think. Um
Gotcha. Yeah, I took that off because I saw somebody was mentioning age discrimination. Granted, I just graduated in 2015, but some people were like, "Don't add the year on there." So that's the only reason I took it off.
yeah. Did a recruiter say that, or just a random person?
I don't even remember, to be honest.
Okay. Yeah, I say provide as much in, because it's like when you don't put it, it seems like you're hiding it. And
Hmm.
so yeah, I'm sure there's age discrimination there for sure.
Hmm.
But then I don't think the solution to that is hiding information so that they can't discriminate upon you. You know what I'm saying? Like if they're gonna discriminate, they're gonna discriminate, and like fuck them, like let them discriminate. But
Gotcha.
I don't know if you should hide it. So yeah, that's on the education section, and I think that should be the first thing on your resume.
Okay.
Then you have skills. That's good. Um, it just seems like a lot. I might separate them out into different sections, like
Hmm.
program, like languages, frameworks,
Okay.
and then everything else, something like that, just to make it a little bit more readable. Because right now it's like, I see Heroku. Okay, that's a good one. Like software development. I don't even know if you have to put software development. Like if you put your programming languages, I think
That's
that
kind
should
of
be good
obvious,
enough.
huh?
Yeah, but I think maybe separating. I think it's good that you have the skills, so that's good. But it might be worth separating out into different sections, like programming languages, and then whatever else.
Gotcha. And I have a question where I think you're actually going down the list now, but
Hmm.
so on my experience, the first one I have on there is 100 devs. 100 devs, I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's more so like a boot camp slash agency. So it's not actually a a paid job or anything. Do you think recruiters may look at that at because it's still experience? I'm working on projects, I'm working with other people. It's just unpaid experience. Do you think that would kind of throw somebody off? Because I don't know if that's kind of affecting when I'm submitting resumes too.
Yeah, it does look like when someone told me before, and you can take this with a grain of salt.
Hmm.
In your experience section, it should be positions that you got paid for, not
Yeah.
like a boot camp or anything like that. Some people add it
Hmm.
out, and I'm sure there's someone would call me out and say, no, you can put a boot camp there or whatever. But when I
Hmm.
see this, it looks like you had a job as a software engineer, and it looks like, okay, you've been there for 2 years. So I'm thinking, oh, okay, like I'm hiring an experienced like assuming I don't know the company name 100 devs, I'm thinking, oh yeah, you're a full-time software engineer and you work at 100 devs and you've been there for 2 years. So I might even be thinking like, oh, let me if I'm going to interview you, I'm going to interview you as a mid-level engineer
Okay.
because you're experienced, tenured, this and that. But
Hmm.
then if I were to find out, oh, it's a boot camp, it's like, because it kind of leads you to the way you have it, it leads someone to believe that it's your job, but
Gotcha.
it's not.
Hmm.
um like look, and you have it with, oh, technical recruiting coordinator at Amazon. It's like, that's a job, that's something that should be under experience. Web
Hmm.
designer slash co-owner, that's I think you can put that.
Okay.
It's it's a little bit more iffy,
Hmm.
since it's like that's more of like a side project, right? Because it's not like, I mean, I think at a point when if your app becomes, or like this project that you're working on becomes, bigger, you're making money off of it, I think
Hmm.
it definitely is more warranted to have under experience. But
Hmm.
like I've worked on several projects. I would put those under a project section and say, oh
Okay.
yeah, like one of the apps I'm working on is PodRank. I'd put that under a project section if I were to redo my resume or whatever. I wouldn't put it
Got
as paid experience, even though, like I do want to collect payments on it. I do want to, make it a business. I wouldn't. Sometimes it does feel like people inflate titles sometimes, and will say like, oh, I'm owner, CEO of this, but it's like, well, CEO and you just work as a IC at a certain
Mhm.
company. So
Gotcha. So
yeah.
this one here, the one we are just on, the Sunset Nest. So that was a company that I started. It wasn't like my main job, it was more so like a side job.
Hmm.
But for that, so I was selling merchandise, but
Okay.
I acted in every aspect of the business. So I was also like the web designer, stuff like that too.
Okay.
In that case, do you think do you think I should add it as a project
No,
or?
that's experience. I'd say that's experience.
Okay, okay.
That's experience. That's definitely experience. And then lead patient access rep, access coordinator, Kaiser. Yeah, that's experience. You should 100% have a project section.
Okay.
100%. Like that's basically how I was able to, like, if I didn't, because it's like, you don't necessarily have, I mean, with this Sunset Devs, I mean, this is, I think this is a good look. This is a super good look.
Mhm.
But you don't necessarily have work experience within one of these bigger company, one of these, known companies or whatever. So
Right.
in that case, I would definitely recommend project section, because the project section lets you show, like, okay, I don't have professional experience, but here are some of the projects I've worked on that show what I could potentially do in a professional capacity.
Mhm.
And I think that'd really benefit you.
Got
Um, let's see what else. So yeah, this 100 devs, let's say you worked on 2 projects there. You might include like one project from there, one project from, a hackathon that you went to or whatever, and just have those in the project section. And you would list out bullet points for them, just like you would, one of your actual professional experiences.
Okay.
Recent website project. See, look, this stuff here, look, let me click on this. Open link. Okay, look, this looks interesting. Like the Posh Makeup Studio, about services. Yeah, that looks interesting. Jared
That was
Seller.
that was like one of my very first ones, my Poshmate. I like Jared Seller better. It looks a whole lot more put together. It's not as, the page isn't as long, but I think that one definitely looks a little
Look,
better.
so look, you see the same thing what I said earlier about the links. It's
Mhm.
like you have these projects as links, but it's those that should be there should be a section with each of these projects, and you just
Mhm.
explaining, oh, I created six blah 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 and did this number of this thing in order to do that.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, all that.
Okay.
Let me get into the bullet points, unless you have another question before I get into them.
Oh no, I'm listening.
Okay, so with your bullet points. So first thing I look for is numbers, and I think you do really good with that. 10 plus converted, 10 plus of this. Collaborate, collaborate. That collaborate word, I say use that sparingly. And someone told me this before too. Use it very sparingly, especially as a junior engineer,
Uh-huh.
because when you use the word collaborate, and a recruiter told me this before because they had my resume in front of them and they were like writing on it. They're like, when I see the word collaborate, I think you worked on a team where other people were doing the work and you were just along for the ride. And so
Gotcha.
that's why it's like, so someone told me that, maybe it's trauma, but I'm like, I cannot, like, I got to be very careful with the word collaborate.
Mhm.
Talk about the thing, like, let's say you did collaborate on one thing, but let's say on that thing you were collaborating, you did X, Y, and Z. You the whole effort was a joint effort to, let's say I collaborated on building this app, right?
Mhm.
But I think it looks better when you say, oh, instead of collaborating on building this app, I built 2 React components in order to, show display information or blah blah blah. You see what I'm saying? So you're
Yeah, that
focusing
makes
on
perfect
what
sense.
you did as opposed to what the team did. That's
Mhm.
super important for a lot of these positions.
That's a great point. A great point.
Let's see. Built RESTful API that serve JSON to, that's really good. Did you only do one, or did you do a couple of these APIs? Like, how
Um,
many API methods did you create?
so that was just one with the JSON, but I
Okay.
did do other ones where I pulled from a database and sent it over as well.
Okay. And
Yeah.
how many of those have you made? How many API methods have you created?
Just two so far.
Okay.
Yeah, just
I
two.
would say that. I would say that. I would say put the number there, like, oh, built 2 RESTful API endpoints, in order to do whatever, that got data from this place, did something to it, and returned it to clients. And when you use those numbers, and I think you do a good job with it already, but just lean into it. Like, try to use those numbers, talk about what you did specifically, and that would go a long way. Testing previously written code. It's a little bit wordy. It's a tiny bit wordy, but not necessarily bad. Tested previously written code. Are these manual tests, automated tests? Did you write unit tests? If you created unit tests, how many of them did you create? Were there multiple test cases? If you can say, oh, instead of saying tested previously written code by using developer tools, ensure blah 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 blah. If you can say, oh, I wrote 8 unit tests in order to ensure best practices and usability. Like, you see what I'm saying? If you can say a bullet point like that, where you're saying, I did this, I did X amount of this, and I did it in order to increase sales, increase revenue, promote programming standards, do something positive for the company, or something positive for the company, or in order to achieve a certain goal. That should be your basically your template for every bullet point under your project section, every bullet point under your experience section. And you don't have like extracurriculars, but if you did have an extracurricular section, every bullet point under that should be along that line as well. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So it's so funny, like looking through some of these bullet points again, because every job that I apply to, I always kind of put the keywords together too. So I think that's why some of them are super wordy compared to how my resume looked when I first wrote it. Um, so yeah, I need to go through some of those and take out some of those, add-on words that I wrote for previous positions I applied to. But I guess my question is, if I'm a part of a technology committee that has nothing to do with software development at all, is that something that you would add
A part of a
to?
technology committee, are you getting paid to do that?
No. Mm-mm.
So it's like a volunteer experience?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I put that on my resume.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd put it under like extracurriculars, volunteer, awards. And I'll show you after this, I'll show you my resume just to kind of put it into context. And
Okay.
this doc that I wrote that has some of the similar information that I shared with you.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. So any other questions before we move on?
No questions. I took a page full of notes,
Oh,
so
wait,
that's been
nice.
helpful. Yeah.
I love that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me close this and I will share something else. Okay, share. We're gonna share this doc. Okay. Can you, sorry, can you see my screen?
Yep, I see it.
Okay. So here, let me zoom in a bit.
It
So
looks
this
so
is an old,
organized.
say that again?
I say it looks very organized.
Right. And this is old too, because I don't even
Mhm.
work at Amazon anymore. But I don't really update my so this resume template. I had a friend
Mhm.
who basically I had a friend who, his name is Akash, if he's watching or whatever, but he basically was getting the internships that I wanted and he was getting the jobs that I wanted. And I was like, shoot, let me see what he's doing. So he gave me his
Uh-huh.
template and yeah, I just used it ever since. And so, made some tweaks here and there, changed some colors or whatever, but I generally use the same template since I was in college. So basically, you can see I have, location, number, email, LinkedIn, GitHub. I have the links written out, but you can also click on them if you have the physical doc. In
Gotcha.
addition, I have, the college, I say GPA if it's above 3.5. 3.3, I think you decide that for yourself. I think you could probably still put it, and because it shows transparency. I
Mhm.
have when I graduated, the field of study, boot camp. So the boot camp that you have, I'd put that under education and say,
Okay.
yeah, this is what I studied, and I was there from here to here. And
Mhm.
then the relevant courses, I would say, relevant, and I didn't include any courses or whatever from CUNY Tech Prep. But if I was being if I was consistently updating it and all that, I would add stuff from CUNY Tech Prep. I would say I would add different courses that I took at CUNY Tech Prep where we covered certain topics like
Mhm.
React or all these different things. So okay, we have about 10 minutes left. So relevant courses, data structures, algorithms, all that stuff. Have some languages in parentheses so they know where are you getting the skills that you claim to have, right? Because anyone can say, oh, I have all these technical skills, but
Right.
can you say where you got them? At least some of them, so that they know, there's some authenticity to it. So
Right.
if you took a boot camp and you learned how to program in JavaScript or whatever Python, you should say
Mhm.
that. And you should mention that in your education. So it's like, yes, I self-proclaim to know these languages, but I also have a certification from this boot camp that I learned this language in. Or if I say I know Excel, I did take a business statistics class in my bachelor's of apply or whatever your bachelor's was in Florida.
Mhm.
And you can kind of relate the two. Uh, let's see, technical skills. So I kind of separated them. I
Mhm.
have, programming languages, and then I have certain tools, skills, basically everything else.
Mhm.
And it's just tight, and it's not to take up a lot of space because I want most of the space to be taken up by my professional experience.
Right.
Um,
Gotcha.
right now, right now I don't have project section, but I did have a project section back when
Mhm.
I was in college. I just removed them as I got more and more professional
Experience.
experience.
Gotcha.
Um, but I think that the project section, like what I had was basically I chose the two most important professional experiences, like two most recent professional experiences and relevant to the jobs that I was applying. And then
Mhm.
I made a project section and I had two projects. And I might have even put the projects over the professional, or no, I think I put professional over projects. But you can kind of play around with that yourself and see what works best. And what works best means what gets you the most uh what gets you the most interviews after
Uh,
applying or giving it to someone. Like if you go to a networking event and you see one resume gets you more feedback than another, then that's the one that's working for you. What I'm saying is like this is all my opinion based on my experience and me dealing with,
Right.
I've, basically any company out there, I probably interviewed with them at least once. And I have a bunch of friends, and I've collected their feedback on their experiences. So that's where my opinion comes from. But you might
Mhm.
develop a new opinion based on your own experiences and your own friend group and all that stuff.
Mhm.
Um, and then at the bottom, if you can see this right here, you can actually see my leadership activities. And these are kind of old. I might even want to take this out just because
Mhm.
it's really a long time ago. But
Got
and there was a time where like I kind of phased it out. I want to add new stuff, but I used to have bullet points under them where I would say, oh, I did this I created web pages at radio station. I did this with Black Student Union, and kind of mentioned some of that stuff there too. But because I'm kind of phasing it out, and they're old, I kind of decided to just remove them to save space for other stuff.
Mhm.
Now, getting into the professional experience, this is like, the bulk of your resume. Um, you can see just I'm telling you what I did, I'm telling you numbers, and I'm telling you results. So
Mhm.
if you look at let's see, like for example, This one, leveraged Memcache to speed up subsequent shopping cart loads by 29 milliseconds on average, right? So it tells you exactly what I'm doing. I'm, using this tool. I'm caching that, and of course, I can't speak too deeply into what I'm doing, but I use this tool, Memcache. It's a, people know the tool. It's on the internet. Shopping cart loads. They know I work at Etsy. I work on the app, or I worked on the app, and they know it takes time to load. And how did I do it? I did some caching, and it improved by 29 milliseconds. Now that can equate to money. I didn't have that statistic or whatever, but it shows very clearly, it shows, hey, my technical expertise and the work that I did led to this impact
Right.
positively for the company. Similar thing with here, let me find another one. And I'm kind of cherry picking them, but here, look. Okay, this one, at an internship. Wrote 6 controller methods in parentheses, peep the Ruby, to flesh out interactions between endpoints like generating CSV, downloading CSV, and authenticating user permissions. So it's telling you very succinctly, okay, he's working on API endpoints. He did 6 of them. So it's not like he only did 1 or 2. He did 6 of them. So it gives you the magnitude of said thing going on. And then why did he do it? Oh, because they need to do things like generating CSVs, downloading them, blah, blah, blah. And so you can kind of see that thematic amongst all the bullets on my resume. There are some where I, like the most recent one with Amazon, I didn't put too much detail, but I also didn't really apply to any jobs. So I wasn't really but if I were to go back, then I would go back and hit it with the same style that I did with Etsy, JustWorks, and MasterCard, where I'm like putting numbers, what did I do, etc. And then of course you have to be careful with confidential information.
Right.
I only talk about things that are have been released to the public. So here I was trying to be abstract when I said design docs, because I don't want to say exactly what I'm doing, because I don't want to get sued or whatever.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
so yeah. So this is to give you some context on what my resume looks like. Any questions about this?
No, but seeing this is super helpful as far as kind of understanding how I should probably change some of my bullet points to kind of show, I guess, the difference it made opposed to just telling the task that I did. I guess it just is a little bit more, I'm not gonna say complicated when it's more like you know, free I'm not gonna say
Freelance.
freelancing, but
Yeah.
yeah, it
When it's
just
like your own personal project, or it's not like for business. I think you
yeah.
still can do it, but
Mhm.
like for example, with the where's the one I just showed you? Okay, this one, right? 6 control,
Mhm.
like this is for business, but I didn't say numbers related to money or things like that. I just said numbers related to like what I'm doing. I said 6 controller methods. And I think
Right.
you could do that too, because it sounds like you wrote some controller methods and blah blah blah. You can do that too.
Okay.
And then why you're doing it, like to generate this and that. Um you can add metrics about things like timing, and you can just do a quick measurement, like, okay, how does this one take, and then let's say you iterate on it and you want to make it faster. Okay, now what's the difference in time? And then just capturing that number, now you can talk about it because it's real, you did measure it. And yeah, and you'll see
Okay.
you'll see a lot of companies do that. Like they'll collect their own stats just to say the stat about their service. So for
Mhm.
example, like Amazon, or let me not say Amazon, but like if you go to like random websites, they'll give you a survey of like if you open an app, like let's say you go on Instagram and you use a certain feature, they'll pop up, oh, did you like this? Go to the app store and leave a review. So it's
Right.
like it's not like they're so fancy, like they're just collecting numbers because they
Mhm.
want to talk to people and say, oh yeah, our app is 4 or 5 stars, right? And
Mhm.
it matters to people who care about apps and stuff like that. I think you
Right.
can do the same.
Okay. Sweet. But yeah, no questions. This has been super helpful for sure. I'm definitely gonna go and edit my resume again. I feel like I edit it every week. But
It's
this has been
constant. You never
yeah,
stop.
for sure. Yeah, I'm definitely seeing that for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hold up. Let me okay, it's going to kick us off real quick.
Hmm.
I just wanted to show you this last thing before we end. I wrote this article with some of the information that I shared with you: top info,
Okay.
education section, technical skills, professional
Mm,
experience, projects, and then additional. So I'll send this link to you via email,
okay.
and you can check it out in case you just want to refer back to it. And then yeah, if and when I eventually put this on like YouTube or whatever, I'll definitely share it with you before it goes out.
Awesome. This has been super helpful. I really appreciate it.
No problem. My pleasure.